Very good evening. I'm Lisa Broom with the CBC Evening News. In our top story tonight, the island's tourism sector has been holding its own in the face of the sewage problem on the south coast. The assessment from Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Tourism Product Authority, Dr. Kerry Hall. She admits most of the concern about the situation has come from repeat visitors to the island.
We find that even though a lot of comments have appeared on TripAdvisor, that people who come to Barbados, once they know that it is in a particular area. I mean, the whole island is not off limits, or the problem is not across the entire country. So people tend to just make the necessary adjustments that they have to make to accommodate their stay here. And especially once the issue is addressed from the perspective of you get back to them with what's actually happening with accurate information. You know, I'm not saying that some people have not diverted their stay here, but a lot of people are still coming to the island despite this.
Regarding the health alert issued by the U.S., Dr. Hall says getting the correct information out as quickly as possible is key to protecting the industry.
There are concerns, of course. It's obvious there would be concerns based on how it's being viewed from a global perspective, based on inaccurate information getting out. But what we're doing is ensuring that we are countering the situation by moving swiftly to ensure that the information you heard here today will get out into the market, and hopefully that would stem the tide of anything that's being said out there, right? And it will go a long way if you found that, you know, in many cases when these things go viral, is usually our own Barbadian people who are doing it. And by doing that, it makes the situation worse.
The Barbados Water Authority has been detailing some new findings regarding the South Coast sewage problem. General Manager Keith Roy Halliday was updating the media during a press conference yesterday to address a health alert issued by the U.S. Embassy on the island's water quality on Thursday. Now, he says the mitigation measures put in place earlier are continuing, and technicians from the Environmental Protection Department and the Ministry of Health have been called in to help with the new phases of work.
We will have realized through our last set of tests that we do not only just have a breach, we do not only just have a recirculation from the effluent or the outflow into the influent, but we also have fractures in the inlet line or sanitary line. In other words, we're getting groundwater penetration, and it's a mix of all of those which is creating the overflows. And because we believe that those fractures are worsening, that is why we're having some challenges sometimes maintaining the overflows. But that notwithstanding, we have added a couple of other mitigation measures which we are trying to put in place very quickly, and we're accelerating at least one of the interim measures to be able to control or divert the effluent if we need to, so that we can continue to retard or slow, in effect, the overflows in the road.
Mr. Halliday says efforts to take some South Coast businesses off the main sewer line have been going well.
We were able to address the key establishments that were being affected. We have either diverted them into suck wells or septic tanks, or in some instances we have installed backflow preventers, and that has worked very well. We have not really had any issues since for those particular institutions. We have a particular list that we're following in order of priority as we see it, and we're still pursuing that. We still have a few that we need to take off.
There has not been any fallout yet in the wake of the health alert issued by the U.S. Embassy in relation to the island's water quality. This from Foreign Affairs Minister Senator Maxine McLean. She says apart from some Barbadians living overseas, up to yesterday afternoon, no queries or other concerns had been received through official channels. The foreign minister adds that every effort will be used to get the message abroad that Barbados's water is safe.
We obviously communicate with our representatives across the 13 missions that we have. So we will use multiple media to share that information. And of course, social media, I trust in the same way that people use it to spread what is incorrect, that we will reverse that. But I did, of course, emphasize the importance of making sure that when these things are done, that we do it in a way that does not reflect badly and inaccurately. That's more important. Inaccurate representation of a situation.
Local Calypsonian Marsville has delivered, giving it to the Trinidadians during the semi-finals of the International Soca Monarch. His performance on Thursday at the Queen's Park Savannah secured him a spot in the finals. Now he, along with Marvey, with his song Adrenaline Rush, flew the blue and gold in the competition. Aside from Marsville, the other artists making the finals are Aaron Duncan, Ambi, Aston Isaac, Yankee Boy and Ricky Jai. Blacks, Farmer Nappy, Jadel, M1, Orlando Octave, Rome and Turner. The finalists will seek to dethrone two-time Soca Monarch Aaron The Voice St. Louis for the 2018 title. The International Soca Monarch finals will take place on February 9th, which is Fantastic Friday. The annual Barbados Flower Show is taking place with an explosion of colour at Ball's Plantation this weekend, and stakeholders are working towards bringing more young people into horticulture. Lorna Jones has more.
With all the blooms and blossoms on display at the annual Barbados Flower Show, it's easy to understand why the show is still going strong 90 years on. President of the Barbados Horticultural Society, Jennifer Weech, is encouraged by the public's response so far. And she says gardening has increased in popularity over the years and encourages people to be more environmentally aware.
I think a lot of people have gone into gardening in the last couple of years. Programs on CBC, etc. I've encouraged that. The guy used to do about the trees, you remember, McCaskey, and then there was another guy that did gardens. So I think it's something that's growing in Barbados. Not the pun, but.
Ms. Weech says they are also looking to encourage more young people to get involved in horticulture.
Next year I'm going to try and rebrand the whole thing and get more people involved, because as you say, or demographic, if you want to put it that way, is older and unfortunately dying out, and we need to look at newer people and a different sort of age group.
This sentiment was echoed by head of the Barbados Agricultural Society, James Paul.
We need to look at a program where we can actually go into the schools and encourage young children to actually get involved in flower gardening. And that is a project really, at least that might be better, because I find one of the complaints when we go into schools and encouraging them in the kitchen gardens is that people are stealing the produce, but they might not have that propensity to see the flowers as much. But still, it is something that we need to get our young people involved in as much as possible.
The flower show is a popular attraction for locals and tourists alike, and we spoke to some of the patrons to find out what they thought about the show.
I saw roses, I saw jewelry, I saw plants that I like.
Oh, it's beautiful, fantastic. There are different types of flowers, organic, and there is orchids at a reasonable price, and the plants are at a reasonable price. It's beautiful. If you love flowers, you have to come out, you have to come out.
I've always been interested in gardening. My sister was very interested in gardening too. She came over here a few years ago, and so I knew I had to come over and see this.
Yeah, very much, very much. This is the end of our holiday. We go home tomorrow, but this is a lovely conclusion to it. It's beautiful here.
It is fantastic. I just love the colours. I really, really do love flowers, so that's why I come every year.
Up next for the Barbados Horticultural Society is the International Chelsea Flower Show. And Ms. Weech says plans are already underway for a strong showing by the Barbados team. Lorna Jones, CBC News.
Lorna, thanks. We'll take a break here but come back with more news, so stay tuned. A cleanup targeting the residential districts in Bridgetown kicked into another gear today. This time, the City Development Foundation, along with the Democratic Labour Party's candidate for the city, Henderson Williams, headed into Evelyn Avenue and surrounding areas. Several truckloads of bulk waste were removed as residents readily brought out their old items by the roadside. Mr. Williams says the cleanup will continue for a while, contrary to criticism.
When we started this journey months ago, on the floor of Parliament, the representative for the city of Bridgetown alluded to this one-day cleanup in the Orleans. Of course, it was not a one-day cleanup. but an effort that took some days and some weeks to do. But we continue our efforts in terms of assisting the residents to mobilize, because in a lot of cases it's really the residents in the city saying this is something we want to do. We want to be a part of an effort where we can help ourselves.
Mr. Williams also shared some of his other plans for the constituency with the media.
We have initiated quite a few pieces. The beautification element, we've started. The educational element, we've started as well in the schools, Wesley Hall. We launched the environmental club there. And we actually have some cards that encourage people to do their recycling and helping children to do things that will help to improve their environment. We're also working with the St. Ambrose School. They also have an environmental club, but we're helping the young people at the same time.
Barbados is positioning itself as a base for Australian businesses interested in operating throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. To this effect, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Senator Maxine McLean, says the island will continue discussions with the continent towards the signing of a double taxation agreement. Senator McLean's comments came as Barbados joined with Canberra in celebrating Australia Day. The national holiday, observed on January 26th, commemorates the arrival of the first British settlers in 1788. Prime Minister Fendel Stewart has extended best wishes on behalf of the country and has sent a congratulatory letter to his Australian counterpart, Martin Turnbull. Disaster preparedness and food security have been identified as other areas of interest for cooperation between the two countries. And Senator McLean says the relationship between the two has been beneficial since the establishment of diplomatic relations.
Diplomatic relations between Barbados and Australia date back to January the 7th, 1974. Over those 44 years, the relations have been both cordial, cooperative, and beneficial. Both countries share membership of the Commonwealth and engage in that forum on matters of mutual interest. In this regard, Barbados recognizes and appreciates the international support which Australia gives to climate change, related issues in small island developing states, using the Pacific Islands as its reference area, but of course, appreciation of the fact that those things apply to Barbados.
Australia's Honorary Consul to Barbados, James Gardner, says Australia is currently enjoying its 27th successive year of economic growth.
Much of it fueled by the resources boom with higher commodity prices and higher real estate prices due to immigration. As Minister McLean said, there are a few areas of cooperation between Australia and Barbados, including legal matters, maritime affairs, and in the Commonwealth and the United Nations.